It's a shame you can't see all the pretty pictures that I put together. We're working on finding out why this television can be so moody sometimes. But we think we've got a solution. Amadeus was just telling me before the service that we think we have a solution for keeping this screen awake. It's an eco-friendly feature where the screen automatically turns off after a while, but it's not very friendly for our services. Is there a picture up there? I don't know. Anyway, this week it's not that interesting. Sometimes I put little hidden hints in my picture that goes along with my sermon. Goldfinger, the classic action spy film, stars Sean Connery as James Bond. He faces off against the titular villain, Auric Goldfinger, who is a magnate with an obsessive affinity for gold. Bond finds out that the criminal mastermind has designs for the United States Bullion Depository at Fort Knox, described by the film as the world's biggest bank. The villain's insatiable appetite for gold attracts the suspicion of England's top agent 007, James Bond, who seeks to foil his plot to break into Fort Knox. Well, Bond is captured and narrowly escapes a deadly laser set to give him the world's worst circumcision. Then he manages to get free, confronts the nefarious Goldfinger only to discover the big twist. Goldfinger is not seeking to steal the gold from Fort Knox, but rather to contaminate it with radiation, which would render the world's largest gold reserve worthless and increase the value of Goldfinger's own stash of 1.5 metric tons. Well, naturally, James Bond saves the day with all the machismo, bluster, and cheesiness that you would expect, stopping the ticking timer of the bomb at exactly 007. Bond beats the bad guy, gets the girl, and lives to tell the tale. Mr. Goldfinger, on the other hand, would have loved this week's Torah portion. It describes the lavish and detailed construction of the Mishkan, the wilderness tabernacle, and all of the implements and adornments, many of which were constructed from pure gold. Exodus 38:22 reads, Now Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, had made all that Adonai commanded Moses. At his side was Aholiab, the son of Asimach, of the tribe of Dan, carver and designer, embroiderer in blue, purple, crimson yarns, and fine linen. Here's the important part. All the gold that was used for the work, in all the work of the sanctuary, the elevation offering of gold came to 29 talents and 730 shekels by the sanctuary weight. Now, this next part requires a little bit of math, but don't worry, I did it for you. To get started, okay, well, I started to do the math, but then I got bored. Then I gave up and just Googled it. It turns out that 29 talents and 730 shekels of gold is roughly equivalent to the size of Mr. Goldfinger's own personal stash. That is to say, quite a lot. Well, you might be asking yourself at this point, where did all that gold come from? I know I did. It turns out that the ancient rabbis did too. You see, we can trace the wealth of the Israelites in the narrative back to the Exodus from Egypt. During the 9th plague, anyone? Darkness, locust coming right on the heels of the locust. The plague of darkness, the Torah explains that the Hebrew slaves went into the houses of their taskmasters and took gold and silver earrings and jewelry under the cover of darkness. This was considered their wages for 430 years of slavery, and apparently even the Egyptians decided that in fact it was only fair. Well, this might seem like a solution to our dilemma. Where did the gold come from? But there's one problem, one big, huge, golden calf-shaped problem. You see, just a few weeks back, we read about how all the Israelites took their gold earrings and jewelry and gave it to Aaron, who melted it down to make the golden calf while Moses was up on the mountain. Exodus 32. Aaron said to them, "Take off the gold rings that are on the ears of your wives, your sons and your daughters, and bring them to me." And all the people took off the gold rings that were in their ears and brought them to Aaron. He took them from him, cast them into a mold, and made a molten calf. They exclaimed, "This is your God, O Israel, who brought you out of the land of Egypt." Well, then what happened to the golden calf? Exodus 32. A little bit later, we read, Moses took the calf that they had made and burned it. He ground it into powder and strewed it upon the water, and then made the Israelites drink it. Well, now we're back at square one, it seems. The Israelites gave all their gold to Aaron to make the golden calf. Moses ground up and pulverized the idol, and just for good measure, he made the people drink the powder that was left over. There is no recovering from that. But look closely at this text. Aaron tells the men of the community to take the gold earrings from their wives, their sons and daughters, but they give Aaron the rings from their own ears in the next verse. This contradiction is addressed in a collection of midrash called Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer, which explains the men indeed went to their wives to get the gold, but the women refused. They would not dishonor God in such a way, and they would not allow their jewelry to be made into an idol. The men were left with no choice but to force Aaron to accept their own earrings instead. Well, Monday was International Women's Day, so it seems only fitting to conclude this tale with a description of women's contribution to Jewish history. Like the recorded history of most other civilizations, women are largely left out despite their significant contributions. It was the women who donated their gold for the construction of the very first dwelling place of God and allowed the Shekhinah, the divine feminine presence of God, to dwell among us in this world. Even the Torah acknowledges that men and women worked together on the construction of the Mishkan. And there's even a tradition that none other than Miriam inspired and instructed Bezalel in the designs and the implements of the Mishkan. As we approach Rosh Chodesh Nisan, the beginning of the month of Nisan, which starts tomorrow night, my thoughts turn towards the women of the wall, Nashot HaKotel, which is if you don't already know, a group of women who pray every month at the Western Wall in Jerusalem. Well, over the years, members of the Kehillah have been assaulted, spit on, shouted down, arrested, or even had their holy objects vandalized by the Orthodox men nearby at the wall. The women's supposed crimes and transgressions include such offenses as bringing their own Torah scroll to the women's area of the Kotel, singing out loud their prayers, and wearing talitot, prayer shawls. Well, I've known personally many of the women who pray there monthly, and many of them are now my own colleagues, serving as rabbis in congregations all over the world. I'm proud to be part of a religious movement which has and continues to lead the way toward the mountaintop of true egalitarianism, which welcomes men and women with equal enthusiasm. Shabbat Shalom. At this time,